Oh, you're live. Hello, TCI family and Jonathan's Refuge and all of our faithful followers from around the globe. We love you all. You are blessed tonight to be at my side. I'm blessed, and you are blessed to be able to see her. This is Princess Belle Brown. She is our actual therapy dog at Grace Connection Services, which is the parent company of Jonathan's Refuge. Excuse me. So she is a purebred white German Shepherd. She's 81 pounds. She's being treated by Mama right now, which you guys all know, the first lady of TCI. So I'll have her jump in a second. But she wanted to have the video started with Belle.
And look, she's actually sitting in a chair.
She says, "I'm a big girl."
More treats.
So tonight, what we are going to be discussing is the details. And dear, if you would grab that book right there on the table. So I was sitting here in the office, and I was having a rough day. I've been up since 4 this morning. I've been puking my guts violently, and it's not been easy. I'm not sick, don't worry. I'll be at church tonight. Y'all be watching this going, "Oh God, he's sick." Try to spread it, right? I have no sick. I have a stomach issue. I just had stomach surgery. There's a lot of problems. But I was laying in between puking sessions trying to find inspiration. And one of my favorite mountaineers is a guy named Nims Purja. Beyond Possible is his book, where he climbed the 14 highest peaks in the world, which are above 8,000 meters. And Mission Possible is what he called it. And it's a movie about him on Netflix. If you haven't seen it, Google Nims Purja and you will watch one of the most inspirational movies. And this guy is, again, a man that I look to for mountaineering wisdom. And so I was reading his book, and he talked about, one of the things he talks about is he has 2 rules when he's in a mountain. And I want to quote this to you. So he says, first rule is hope is God. And I'm not going to get into what that means. We can talk about that another time. But this is rule number 1 is hope is God. So when someone's like, "Man, I hope we make it," that's God. So understand, this is his rule, okay? Second thing was, he said, the little things count most on big mountains. And when I saw that, I'm like, "Oh, don't let Miss Cece see this. She's going to tell me, I tell you so. I tell you every time. Make a list. Check off the list. The little details are going to kill you." That's why I asked her to be here for this specifically, because I'm going to kind of roll myself under the bus. So I do a lot of expeditions. And the expeditions, they travel around from Washington into Idaho, California, Oregon, Maine. We've done some fun stuff. And what we do is we take men and women and people up on these mountains. Now, I personally like to make sure I go first. So I do what we talk about a meet and greet. My wife knows what I mean by this. It's kind of like when you're doing business with someone. You really need to get a meet and greet. You can't just show up. Back in the old days, if you study history, literally, Miss Cece and me would not have actually met. And then we would have been told, by the way, you're getting married and here's your spouse. And you're like, "Oh, okay." And we're going to meet like a couple weeks before the wedding. And we're going to go take walks. And it's like, "Hi, this is the meet and greet. Nice to meet you. I know we're going to be married in a few weeks, having sex and making children and building a family. So this is awkward, but this is the meet and greet." Little awkward, right? Well, I don't like to go to a new volcano, a new mountain, a new crevice, a new glacier and be like, "Oh, hi. I want to do a meet and greet." So I go out to these places firsthand. I usually take someone that's disposable, which is my spiritual son, Cam, who's watching. I tried to say that without laughing. He is not disposable. Yes, he is. No. But if he dies, I'm not worried. Is guess what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's like I don't want anyone else to ever die. I couldn't let that. But I mean, if Cammy goes with me, it's like, yeah, dude, you went with JB Rev. Hello, that's an honor, man. Trust me, when he's watching this, he's gonna be like, "I got you, boss." So I go on these expeditions, and I'm just gonna share one of them with you. Brian, who's one of our board members, one of our nonprofits, and one of my dearest friends. Keep him in your prayers, by the way. His dad's in the hospital right now for another heart attack. But Brian and Miss Cece are cut from the same cloth and very detail orientated. He's a Boy Scout and all that kind of stuff. And she's a Girl Scout. And they're just like, so they give me these lists and I got to check them off. And I checked it off. So we're out that night. Okay, Cameron, you have this? Check. Cameron, you have that? Check. Cool. Here's my paper, Cam. Check it off. Rev, you got this? Check. You got this? Check. You got this? Check. We checked it all off. I did what I was told to do. And then we, started packing everything up. And of course, you don't really sometimes pay attention because the stuff's sprawled out. The whole, floor is covered. We usually take up a whole room. And somehow the bag that had all my clothes in it was kind of an important bag when you're going out in the middle of winter and it's 20 degrees below zero with the windshield and all that stuff. I think that night was only like 1 degree minus was the temperature. And then when you threw the windshield in, it was around just shy of 20 degrees below the wind chill. And so I left the clothes. So we go and we're practicing for Denali in Alaska, which is an adventure we're waiting to do. And so we got sleds we're pulling with 75 pounds of gear on the sleds and then 75 pounds of gear in our bags. And we're there at night. Now, we've never been to this place, and this is just a waterfall up on I-90. It's a simple place. There's Snoqualmie, falls there, Snoqualmie Pass, And this Denny's Falls, I think it's called, or Denny's Creek. And then there's a fall right there at Denny's Creek. So we're going to this, and we're walking along a river at first, and you can hear all the water, but after like a half hour, you don't hear any water. Then that's strange, and I know something's off. And we're in a blizzard; it's coming down and everything, snow. And so all of a sudden,
no.
I say, Cam, do you hear the river? He says, no. So we take our headlamps, we look down. We found the river. It was about 50 feet down, a straight 90-degree angle. It's just straight down. And we're carrying sleds that are about 6 feet behind us. And they're just tied on by ropes on the side of us onto our not our waist, they're harnesses to our harnesses. We're talking, this is all about, I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, we're all going to die here. So Cam and me, who are again roped in, we're practicing being roped in. And so we get off trail fast and don't die. And so then I'm like, problem one's done. All right, no biggie. Let's get to camp. Now I'm sweating. He's sweating. You're always sweating. So when you get there, the first thing you got to do is set up your shelter. Project 1. Project 2, get out all your wet clothes, get them into a bag that you're going to put them in your backpack with and let dry overnight through your body heat and get into dry clothes. It is imperative. You can die right here in your backyard in Washington if you don't do this. So we get tent set up. And of course, the best part was, I don't know the area. So this is where the meet and greet comes, right? You don't want to be parked below a tree with massive branches. That's never a good idea. But if you're in a forest, there's nothing but branches. Pick the best one, right? So I found a cedar tree that the whole top on this side had been wiped out. Clue number 1, if it's all been wiped out on one side, there might be a reason why. So I did consider that. Don't think I didn't know that. I am a mountain man. But I still looked around and saw no signs of avalanches. So I just figured that it was actually due to the age and the setting where the sun hits on this tree and not, which later I found out to be I was right, but I didn't know any of that at first. So we set up camp, go in there, and I'm shivering and I'm freezing, and I go to get my clothes, and I left my clothes. I have nothing but the clothes I'm wearing, and that all ends bad. So real quick, of course, I smiled, look at Cam and said, I love you, son, but get your butt over here into my blanket and we're all going to cuddle. So just so that's known publicly, since this is on record, I was the big spoon. Just want that to be known. But Cam saved my life. He got in his backpack, his sleeping bag, and I got mine. And then you just literally sleep right next to each other. You do not sleep away. You don't roll around. If you do roll, you roll right back over each other and you just sit right next to each other. And then you take all your stuff and gear and you kind of pile it around to help. And so we did the best we could. And we got out of there and had to evac out the next morning. Of course, not evac. We had to emergency get out. And of course, Brian, he gets a hold of us and we're on this phone. And he's like, you guys, I was watching where you slept. You didn't sleep right, like in this one spot. And I'm like, yeah, it was really strange, Brian. all night long, starting at like 2 a.m. There was these massive explosions that would go off, and then the ground would just start shaking like ferocious. I mean, it felt like an airplane was coming through right in front of us. And he's like, "You guys, you idiots, you parked in front of where the avalanche zone is and Snoqualmie Pass, I-90, where they shoot the things up to blow up snow to make it come down, the avalanche shoot." And we were camping right at the bottom of this. But to my credit, we did survive because of my mountain man experience.
Oh, goodness.
Now, with all that said, let's get down to it.
Points.
What did I mess up in that entire story? The details could have killed me. The details could have killed Cameron. The details could have killed someone I love very much. I joke about he's disposable, but he's actually not. Needs to stop putting my tools away in the wrong place, because that's going public cam. Put my tools back in the way they're supposed to be.
Okay.
5/8 in 5/8 slot. Am I clear? All right. Sorry, I'm a human. I regress. Just because I'm a bishop doesn't mean I'm not a man. And men are flawed. So what happens is the details could have killed people. Now, had I done what I should have done, and I still don't do it every time, it is I take the list, I do the checklist, but then I do a separate one as I'm packing it. So, because you pack in different orders, you put certain things in the bottom because you're not going to get to them until the end of the night. So you don't want to, just throw your stuff in the bag. So you pack it in sections, and that way you have a separate checklist. But that's detailed work, and I don't like detailed work. I just got an executive assistant who did his PhD at UW, and this guy is Mr. Detail. She's patting herself because she hired him for me. He is amazing. I get this email in the morning. It tells me what he's doing and what I'm doing. I love it. I'm like, whoa.
And at the end of the day, we get
I get another one. Tells me what he did and what we still got to do. And I'm just like, man, you're amazing. I haven't had this since Wyndham Resorts. And why am I bringing this up? In the last few weeks, that nonprofit that my wife and me run, which is one of our outfits, has done more in a few weeks than a year. And it's not because there's bad people that are here. Nope, no, not that. It's because some aren't detail oriented. I'm not one. I'm not going to speak for my wife. I'm not a detail oriented person. I need someone to help me with the details. And I need someone to remind me there's 2 checklists. And then when you do get to where you're going, let's have another little checklist. And now Brian's got another thing he does with me. Okay, let's go over the map. Let's look at the geographical path going on. Yes, that's a wall you're climbing up. The river looks like it's way down there, but when you get there, it's going to be a straight cliff. Don't be walking there with 75 pounds, because if it slips off the edge, boom, you're going down. Now you're at 250 plus your 75 pounds is 325 pounds is going to pull Cameron 75 pounds. Now we're at 450. Cam's big keister's coming over the cliff, and we're all riding down. And don't get me wrong, I get excited because it's like, wow, that's the way you go. Sorry, guys. She's got a dog barking, but it's her phone. She's going to get it stopped. My point is, I know that's the way I'd want to go out, but it's really not also at the same time. And so it's the details. And a man who accomplished climbing the 14 world's tallest peaks and set at that time the world record and did it in 6 months. He climbed 3 of them in 48 hours. The world record to this day has not been broken yet. And Everest was one of them. I think it was Everest, Lhotse, and I think McCall. Don't quote me on the third and final one, but it was 3 of them in 48 hours. He said he couldn't have done it without the details. Let's look at what the scripture says. So what does the scripture say? We can look at the Vedas. There was the great pilgrimage from the north and the south. We can go to the Hebrew scriptures, one that I am being raised a Christian, right? Our Hebrew faith, our brothers from Hebrew left Egypt and for 40 years traveled to get to Israel. Mm-hmm. For 40 years, 500,000 people had to live to get there. Now, listen, please, no one at the refuge take any insult to this. So I not only do I, as an archbishop, oversee bishops and pastors, but I also, my wife and me run an organization. And sometimes there's some people in our organization who are very easy to deal with. There's no issues, and most of you are all like that. And we've had people that have come and gone because they weren't like that. They didn't learn and they didn't want to learn and they didn't care to bend and say, well, I got to be a little kinder, even though I don't like to be kind, but you got to be if you want to be in our organization. And so The people we have now are a pleasure to work with, but it's not always that way. And so it's difficult. Now, I think of just having it as a pastor, my first church. And I was like, a little country church. And I was like, man, this is so complicated. If I come over to help Mr. Johnson on Thursday or on Friday, but not Thursday, I totally won't see him for a month and a half. He won't come to church. I mean, I missed it by one day. There's so many little details. Don't go over to Mrs. Johnson's house and tell her a thing. If you even dare say I'm struggling with something, the whole city's going to hear about it. She's going to be like, we need to pray for the pastor. Oh, Lord, have mercy. I mean, the complicated aspect of just a church. Now think of 500,000 people. You're in charge for them moving every day. They would set up camp and move and walk around for 40 years. So that meant they set up camp and then they'd break down camp. You got the logistics, the wagons, the mules. Who's cleaning up the poop? Because you got to walk through all that poo. Who's doing the cooking? And back then it was women, you cooked, men, you hunted. So there was categories. Think of that. Honey, you would have to on a daily basis cook 3 meals a day for 500,000 people. And you'd be in charge. His wife was in charge of that. And then so you got Moses and he's in charge of the men. And he's telling Joshua, no, you get out and you're going to do this. And you guys go hunt. These guys do protection. You're on the garbage detail. It's 500,000 people. Listen, if you don't pay attention to the details, that story never would have become what it was. It's all about the details. Was Moses an amazing at anything like cooking? I doubt it. Was he amazing at warrior stuff? From what we know, not really. Was he amazing at speaking? He had a speech impediment, like me. He stuttered. I'm not making fun of him. I'm telling you, he stuttered like that. So you can understand, this is the guy that God says, hey, I'm going to have you go speak. Wait, I don't speak. And he actually didn't. So he had to actually tell this other guy, Aaron, who is his brother, to speak for him. I'll tell you, and it'll take a while, and then you can speak for me. So he was great at communications, actually. He was amazing at communications. But he was still a man, and he wasn't perfect in every aspect. It's funny, as we're building our firms together as a couple, or as some, say, the power duo. It's all on her, baby. She's the power. I'm just like holding on to the back tails going, oh, I'm here, baby. Don't forget me. Take me into the dinner when you go.
You're silly.
But we find so often that it's not about any big moves. Like, we don't have a big win. I can't tell you, like with one of our men, TJ, I can't say that what day. Like, I don't think you could do it either. Tuesday, this date, TJ changed. No, it's the little things. It's Mr. TJ would like you to come over, and would you be willing to mow the office yard? Yes. And I told him it took me 2 hours. And the first time he did it, he took, I think, like how long? 4 hours or maybe, something. Yeah. And he was like, I need a lunch break. And I'm like, you've been out there for only 25 minutes. You do know if you went to like a real job, they'd throw you off the job. Oh, really?
Yep.
Now,
you just needed to learn.
Now he comes, he nails it even faster than that. Was there a moment? There's no moment. There was not a like, aha, that was the second. There are moments in people's lives like that, but not for what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is the details. How does TJ progress in a positive way? It's that little thing he did to make a change and to say, okay, I'm not the fastest, so how do I learn? And he watched somebody do it and watched them and timed them and said, okay, I can duplicate that, and then duplicated it. But if he was arrogant, if he was not receptive, if he was rude and like just aggressively, you're just trying to talk down to me, then he would have never learned, and he wouldn't be in the position he's at right now, which is a very blessed place. And so the details are so important. And as I battle my health, the details, it's my poor wife. We got bags of drugs. Like, which bag of drug do we take today? Is it this bag? I'm not kidding. It's like 20 plus prescription pills. And it sometimes can be tedious. But if you don't pay attention to the details, like as we were discussing today with my health, I've been puking from 4 a.m. till now. She had to put the pills into my hand. And listen, there's 2 pills we take. And if she gives me an extra dose, I'm dead.
Details.
Which, by the way, if anyone ever finds out I died by overdose, you know he was my wife.
Oh,
Okay?
stop.
I'm kidding. I'm joking, law enforcement. Don't come after her. I got people that will come after you.
It's very important to pay attention to those details because, like you said, one little pill. Or when they were climbing, if they didn't stop and go, wait, there's a detail that's missing, we should hear the water. And they stopped. And then,
good
you
point.
know, the detail of, you know, of course, he didn't like one last time before he walked out the door, check his schedule, his list one more time. Detail. In my company, the smallest of things is a big thing. As Ty knows, missing an authorization date when somebody comes in, a new client, and then we don't bill for them, that's missing money. It's a little detail. So we color things and say, that's your color, Ty. Detail.
And it's the details that can destroy but grow.
Mm-hmm.
We had a person in one of our organizations that cost us $12,000 in a month in income. Not like one time, like a lot of money.
And it's because of the details.
And it's because of details.
Because when she was inputting information, it would be just missed by one birth date number or one
detail.
Yep.
And so, thanks to people like our director of billing, Ty, who voluntarily works with our organization in many aspects, this young man and Miss Cece's guidance and the new staff member, Shelly, it was amazing. Overnight, instantly, it was like 12,000 more came in. Like, whoa, how does that happen? It's the details.
Yep.
And we got to be watching our details, our diets,
Yeah.
my health, our medications, our prescription drugs, our over-the-counter stuff, are the things that we should be doing to make sure we don't get into the medications.
Or like the conversation we had with Michael Giles this morning. Too much soda is not good for you. If your body's 90% water, shouldn't we be drinking more water? It's a detail
and
that matters, because it affects your health later.
So there's so many people we help in life in little details, and there's people that help us in our details. Because I'm the worst. I have no problem saying, if you're looking for a detail-oriented leader, you have came to the wrong address. Please turn around and go away, because there is nothing even near me that has anything to do with details. How do I save my keister sometimes? It's because of men and women like Brian and Cece, who I even use the word nagging, and I don't mean that in a bad way, guys. I don't. But they're always going, did you do this? Yes, I did that. You know, this isn't my first mountain I've ever climbed. Nope, it's sure not. But it's also not the first time you've left without freaking leaving everything.
Exactly.
Like, okay, you got a point there. All right, I'll shut up. So if you're not good in the detailed things, you need to have someone that's in your life that is a detail-oriented person. You need to surround yourself with detail-oriented people. One of the things that I did with Brian when I started my construction company is I worked for him. And I had no clue what I was doing. I knew how to finance these things. I knew how to build. I was a developer. I worked with millions and millions and millions and hundreds of millions of dollars building resorts all over the world. So I understand all about that. Had my real estate license, did all the stuff, sold hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate. But how to build the wall, I had no clue. Plumb, square, 5/8 sheetrock, what? 2x2s? What? There's a 2x2? I thought it's all 2x4s. I mean, there's so many different things. I remember when I did my first core drop. I leave it right here.
Careful.
Sorry. I leave it right next to my chair in the office. It's my first core drop. For those that don't know, this is the floor. That's the width of a floor on a skyscraper in any place in the U.S. This is each floor. That right there is what's keeping that floor right there, right? And I had to drill through. And beneath this drop right here, beneath this from the top floor down, there was only this much space before a major water vein. And if you hit it, let's just say it would cause probably $10 million in instant damage. And I was sweating, and I had to make a decision, and I had to call. And so I called Brian, and Brian didn't answer. And I know he was busy. I know that. But I called a whole bunch of people, and they all knew what was coming down. And nobody wanted to answer that call because they understood something would have to be answered. Luckily, I had a great man, Brian, who taught me enough things, little details. There was no aha moment where he's like, this is how you do it, JB. He's like, you do this stuff, you do this stuff, and he would say it over and over. And I would say, forgive me, I'm bad with repetition. I need to learn over and over because of my strokes. And he would just repeat the stuff over. And I used to think, God, he's going to never want to be hanging out with me because you got to tell me stuff 20 times. But that knowledge, the little details, made me successful in this core drop. And I keep it to remind me that even something that could have cost $10 million in damages or worse could have dropped a floor or done something and killed somebody, which is worse than monetary damages. So the details, that's what it's about. We ran a little long. I need you to pay attention to your life and what the details are. Where are you at? Analyze yourself. Get your journal out. Write it down. What am I good at? What am I bad at? Pros and cons of who you are. Find out if you are a detail-oriented person. If you are, look at what you're doing. Check your charts. Look at your math and decide, am I really, oh man, I'm not making right moves. That's why it's not adding up into success in my relationships. Or this is why I'm not successful in my health. Or this isn't why I'm successful in my finances. It's not that complicated. If we can measure it, we can manage it. Yeah. I love you guys. Miss Cece, would you send them out with a positive word?
God gave us all a purpose. And we need to look at the past, look at the future, and figure out what details can you change to make yourself be living in the purpose that he created for you. We're here to help you realize what that is. It's definitely not sitting in front of a TV screen, playing a video game or watching TV. I believe, he believes, and it's why we do this work. It's to help others. We're here to help you figure out your details.
God bless, guys. Live positive.